Or if you could set up a meeting in the evening where people that work for a living could come in and you know, explain how they feel about it. You're gonna, the people that just left, I'm pretty sure the only people who's gonna vote that they want to close.
Now,
I mean, I don't think there's anybody here right now.
It's obvious, they're the people who petitioned us to.
Exactly. But, you know,
They had to have X amount of signatures.
well,
the original
that's
petition
another.
to close Water Street on that north end only had 11 valid signatures on it.
Right. And here's something that's totally off, and I say this and I'm totally done. Mr. Johnson is going to build this restaurant down there. He's in a position where there's absolutely no zoning. He's got landowners completely around him that's totally upset with it. I mean, in my way of thinking, I don't want to make the neighbors all mad. What's to stop Mr. Hunter from putting a hog lot right next to his fancy restaurant? Not a thing. Not
To
a
that I
thing.
say, good luck, Mr. Hunter.
And, you know, I mean, that's just, you know, it's just, I drive truck. I have way too much time on my hands to think about things.
Now, this petition, like I said in the timeline, the health department notified Mr. Kessler to get this survey and show where this stuff was. And it took about 8 days, this petition then was started out.
But
And you look at the petition, here's
I'm not worried about anything the health department's done here.
Okay, but I'm just saying, this petition, give you an idea. Wife of Dana Johnson, trustee, Dana Johnson's sister.
Mr. Hunter, we've had a copy of that petition.
But
We
you
know whose
realize
names
who
are
all
on there.
these
We know
people
who-
are,
we
they're
know
all
the names
family and
that's on there.
in-law and employees of the township.
But
That
that's
may be
what they
true.
were required to do, is get
And the
legitimate
petition that I
signatures.
handed in and gave you, there's 29 signatures of quite a variety of different people. So you are to consider the public welfare and convenience.
Like I told you before, I'm looking at it as, all right, the upper end's already closed. You still have access, 33 foot, it's not 66, it's 33. I
But is
don't know what
access
the
any good
inconvenience
then?
is. The inconvenience is, yeah, in my opinion, the upper side closed. That made an inconvenience. But that's,
But
we're not dealing with that
there's a
today.
convenience there to use that in. What my brothers had been to they're telling me.
I've been over to the floodplain building office. I have a person that's very much interested in my building to open up a garage again. And that cutting that down to 33 feet, he's gonna be limited to work on any kind of trucks whatsoever. Because the door faces onto Water Street, the big open garage door. And that's the best way to get in, a long truck into that building to work on it.
Is that the one that may be on the right of way also? That building?
Well, I'm sure there are pieces of buildings down there, and it depends on who did the survey. Your own
Also,
surveyor
you just said a while
says
ago,
that.
those areas aren't exact, but they're not off any 14, 20 feet. Building
Now, that
plan
building-
crew, Mr. the county engineer down to Viewing said that they find every once in a while a building encroaches. But my guys, we're not talking about the whole thing being situated in the middle of the street right away.
I think we're also talking about buildings that have been there for 80 or 100 years, because there's pictures of that garage with people in the 1913 flood standing on the roof of it. So
And
it's
is
been
there
there
access from 60 to that
100
also?
years. Pardon?
Is there access to 60? from
Not the front
60?
of it. The garage door's the back of it.
Just on the back side.
But there is access to the property. And in that, you're exactly right, and you're talking about 80 to 100 years, and that's what I was talking about
We're
prescriptive
not talking
vehicles.
about something, he
You
just
do
put the
have-
trailer in 02.
You do have that.
Something that's been there recently, and it is a trailer, as it was brought up down at the viewing, it's not a house or a home.
I know most of the people remember that building being used as a sawmill. But prior to that, it was used as a garage. And the fellow that had the garage business at that time, he would pull the vehicles out and drive them up and down on Water Street to make sure they was running properly instead of getting out on 60 where they'd stall on him and could cause a catastrophe of a wreck of some kind.
Well, I can't speak for Mr. Kessler, but I bet you he would let you have access. If you open that up,
Not if he gets 33 feet,
it-
he's not.
He's not even
going to be
gonna have it, he's already got a land contract that may or may not have been consummated
Right,
in
I don't know.
last November.
Again, we're getting way off track here.
Well, you
Still
wanna
talking
promote
about the
business
street
in the
there,
area and
that no wants
stuff,
it done.
you're just killing another business. And prior to that, Johnson's building, it used to be owned by Mr. Bob Tysinger, and he had that as a Dairy Queen or a dairy type store, and he served sandwiches and food out of it. And nobody had any problems with, and he had no problems with anybody using Water Street. And he run a fair business. don't
I bought
think he-
my house because of that Dairy Queen. 1979, I worked at the Alloy. I went down there. A fellow by the name of Vern Cohen, his wife run it, and my wife and I went down. We'd already put a deposit on one here in Zanesville. Sitting there watching the guy mow my front yard, and I said, that's the kind of house I'd like to have. And we moved there in '79, and until Mr. Johnson was elected trustee, there wasn't problems down there. It's just that simple. And, you know, I'm not saying it all come at that time, but you're not gonna find anybody down there that trusts each other right now. I mean, it's just, it's a terrible
It's
thing.
sad.
I mean, we'd like to live there in
It's sad.
peace, but, you know, it's like I said, when he called me "you people" the other day, it made me mad.
And when the county used to work on the Gasport Bridge, Ohio Bridge Company from over there at Cambridge come over to our folks and asked if they couldn't use our lots to park their equipment and building material to repair that Gasport Bridge. And we were fine with it. And we had no problem with anybody.
They didn't used to work on it, we're still working on
That bridge was new when we moved down there.
Yes, and I have pictures of your lowboy sitting right there in Water Street unloading a crawler hoe.
it. Sure.
And what was the crawler hoe doing? At that date, it was pulling dirt out from under the approach ramp to the bridge. How did that dirt get there? Mr. Johnson put it there.
Can't answer that.
And that caused you to have to spend our money to get it out of there so your weld trucks could get back under that approach ramp. I've got the pictures of it all.
I wasn't aware of that, so we try to
Well,
maintain the
again,
structure.
Mr. Johnson's always complaining about people's tax money being wasted.
That has nothing to do with this matter.
How much-
So,
I'm sorry. With the road being closed, I know the townships get so much
There, when they
per foot or
replaced the bridge
half.
across the
It's per
road.
mile road.
How much did that change for down there?
There's your county engineer.
I looked at it and we're still working that out with ODOT because it's actually an ODOT thing. They certify them and then the township has to certify them and I do. And I've seen them change like that, you know, $1.80 to $4.16, those types of things per year. Most of the township, they do get some license plate tax and gasoline tax, but the majority of that would be property taxes in the township.
I like.
So,
Unless they add that extra $5.
well, yeah, I don't know what's wrong.
He's the thing.
You folks done with me? I got another meeting.
Are you
We got
arranged?
people waiting.
Chalk those now.
Thanks.
Thanks, Doug.
Something you're gonna make a motion? Well, I don't know what you guys are comfortable seeing. I want to make a motion. I could move it vacant. If you'd rather, you know, another week to think on some of these things, it's up to you guys. I plan on honoring what we did, you know, closing the upper part of the road, give them 3 years. I plan on honoring the word.
Can I ask you a question? We never did, Mr. Johnson had the plans down there for his restaurant. The rest of the riverbank down there to trailer, what does that have to pertain to the restaurant?
Well, I don't have any
Have you
idea.
heard anything from
I
him?
have no
Okay.
idea about that.
Well, I don't know, he had the plans, I didn't,
Plans for the restaurant.
okay, but I didn't know why he had them down there, you know,
I think
for
they
the
were
trailer.
working up here, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was having
He was
plans.
showing the plans, and you gentlemen already left, but he was showing the plans.
He had them.
Why don't
started
you
rolling
just take
on
the
it.
house down, build there? Could have done that and left
Apparently,
the street
apparently he
alone.
wants it on the river, and that's his choice. Okay, we have vacated that. I know you don't like it, I'm sorry about that. Those things were, you know, when you said, you called here and people said it wasn't gonna close, that was not me. I can tell you that. And all three of us commissioners voted to close that. You can check the record if you have, I'm sure
Oh,
you have.
I've got it right here. I've got the resolution.
And I do
right
remember
here.
Mr. Bates trying numerous times to get over to you, Mr. Hunter. before that was ever acted.
Well, that's funny, I talked to him numerous times over that 2-year period, and he said that would never be closed.
But I do know
And on
he
his,
did.
why he voted otherwise, he told me he got hammered at every meeting that you folks wanted to close. Now, I have no idea, that's just exactly what the man told me. You realize, when I tell you something, I'm not lying. It was pointed out to her at a recent meeting about the ODOT letter. And I did not lie to you about that, did I? Remember, she read it to you.
They had been granted the ability to ask for a permit. They had the permit and they had not been acted on though, that they could, where they was going. It was coming down to see about it. So what you told me was not what I answered. To the contrary.
She read you the letter, I called him. And they already had the permit issued.
They had given him a permit with time, but he had so much time and he had certain things he had to do for that to be.
That you and Mr. Levy there based your non-decision on the fact you wanted to know about where.
And that's
Mr.
what we
Darian would
waited
get a
on.
right of way.
And that's what,
ODOT told me that he had that. She read the letter that said he had it.
we're out of bounds here.
I think we need to make a decision one way or the other. I'll second.
You guys would rather hold off? That's something you
Like I said, I'm sure you guys know where I'm leaning. If the upper portion wasn't closed, I'd have some reservations. I still don't see the inconvenience here. There's still access.
You don't see the fact that it was an illegal petition. The commissioner illegally adjourned that meeting
This is, we're talking about
2
the,
years later.
this
He-
is
he-
current
he's-
condition. I know what he
He's
says.
he's tying
We've
it
been
in
over this
together.
time and time again, Mr. Hunter. So,
I second it.
roll call. Yes.
Yes.
Here, I got it.
Well, it's called debauchery in action in this county.
I don't understand how something can go with an illegal, with them not having enough legal signatures on their petition to close the upper end of Water Street.
Again, that's not the purpose of this meeting.
But you
today.
said that it pertains if that end was not
I
closed.
based my
that this-
decision on the upper part of Water Street already being closed.
You do realize this showed that Water Street was closed off. The map there, county engineer's office showed Water Street was closed off to Johnson's months before that ever happened. Somebody must know something that the general public doesn't.
I wasn't aware of that.
You weren't.
No.
Right there's the map.
Well, I didn't so happen to have the map at the time. When was the map?
Well, I had it out 3 years ago.
I wasn't here 3 years ago, Mr.
Well,
Hunter.
then what did you base your decision on?
I based my decision on the facts that we had at the time and the viewing when we went down.
And who gave you those facts?
I made my own facts, my own decision. That's the purpose. That's why there's 3 people in these.
Right there it was. It
Seats.
showed right there.
We know that Water Street's been,
Closed off there. This comes, like I say, I don't make this up myself.
I'm not saying that you
Public
did,
record.
Mr. Hunter.
This was, December 31st, 2007. I got this right upstairs. Eugene Durant printed it out. It shows the Water Street belonging to Johnson's on December 31st, 07. The commissioners did not transfer it to them until January 12th of 2010. So somebody knows something the rest of us didn't.